Welcome to Arts in the City. I'm Magalie Laguerre-Wilkinson, and we're here at the New York Botanical Gardens' spectacular Orchid show. I'll give you a tour in a little bit, but first we want to introduce you to a conductor who's giving classical music a rather unusual twist. Paul Lin reports.
The Church of the Holy Apostles in Manhattan is home to One World Symphony. Yes, it's an orchestra with a conductor and soloist, but if you think this is classical music and that's not your thing, prepare to be blown away. The One World experience, in a word, is democratic. Everyone sits on the same floor in close. There's no stage, no stuffy attitude. There's also the energy South Korean-born Jin Hong brings, both to musicians and the audience. Energy and a tangible connection.
Too many conductors, I think, this is how they begin. I'm going to start, and then they look at the music instead of, and then breathe and make that connection, breathe with your fellow musicians.
We caught up with Sungjin and wife soprano Adrienne Metzinger at their Brooklyn apartment to find out why One World has changed the way people think about classical music.
We get people involved. There's no intermission. You just keep going and going, and we get everybody. It's a more immersive experience.
So why not a little tap dancing during your orchestral performance? That happened at a concert themed around the TV show The Bachelor, complete with women vying for the attention of a contestant through tap and song. Only this night, everyone gets a rose.
We really try to frame everything, symphony and opera in a way that it can resonate with today's audience, today's public.
One World got its start in 2001. Sungjin and Adrienne had already been planning a concert before 9/11. After the attacks, they felt compelled to do something for a city devastated by terrorism.
It helped us build some sort of I wouldn't say identity, but a sense of purpose, because we thought we were contributing towards our local community.
One World contributed the proceeds of that first concert to the Firefighters, Widows, and Children's Fund and has donated proceeds ever since to organizations around the world that do good work. One World's other mission can be seen as a kind of musical outreach. That includes encouraging people to really be a part of the show. One World helps people tap into music that has lived for centuries. The feisty women, the romance and drama of opera, dark stories, and battles for power. Just like hit TV shows today. That realization got Sungjin inspired to write his first opera based on Breaking Bad.
And within an hour of us making it live on our website, Time Magazine had posted it to their website. By the end of that day, it just went crazy.
When the premiere of Breaking Bad Ozymandias, the opera, was sold out, Sungjin and Adrienne knew they were onto something. People actually lining up on the street, waiting to hear the new opera. After that success, the trademark term operasode was born. Which brings us to the new opera Sungjin's composing based on the TV show Hannibal.
Hannibal will be my second opera after Breaking Bad Ozymandias. And it's inspired by probably the most notorious serial killer, Hannibal Lecter.
So how does one set music to a story about the infamous fictional serial killer, Hannibal Lecter? Sungjin begins with a line of dialogue from one of the episodes.
Hannibal asks Will, "What do you hear?" And Will responds with carbon, orchestrations of carbon.
Carbon is a building block for life, so Sungjin takes that as a departure point for composing the opera, choosing letters from the word carbon that also happen to be musical notes.
I chose the notes C, A, and B from carbon, and if you mix those notes, juxtapose them, you get the sonorities and even the aroma of those sounds are incredibly intriguing and sensual. people say, oh, classical music is dying and stuff. The musicians don't care about the audience. Here, this is the reason why I'm taking out the ritual. Okay? So let's practice it again. Just will yourself to really enjoy. If you have to, I mean, seriously. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
People, especially in New York City, have so many options vying for their time and attention, which is why Sungjin and Adrian want their audience to have the best time at One World's concerts. For much of the week, the space inside where One World performs serves as New York's largest soup kitchen. And One World often donates concert proceeds to help feed this community, providing hot meals for some of New York's hungriest. I'm Paul Lin for Arts in the City.
She's a Mexican-born hip-hop artist. This profile of performer Audrey Funk is from Nueva York, CUNY TV's Emmy Award-winning series about Latino culture presented completely in Spanish with English subtitles. Let's meet Audrey Funk.
Vengo directamente desde Puebla, México, y el género que yo le vengo manejando viene siendo el hip hop, funk, soul, R&B, cumbia, reggae, y de todo le manejamos que tenga sabor latino y boom bap. Mira, yo en México a la edad de los 15 años empecé haciendo reggae, un poco de reggae con banda en vivo, y después por ahí de los 19, ya entrando a la universidad y un poco más madura, empecé a hacer hip hop en real, ¿no? Con un grupo y luego ya como por solitario, pero me inicio desde muy chavita en la cultura, digamos, alternativa de la ciudad de Puebla, ¿no? Ahí ando.
Están los míos, los verdaderos míos, los que a pesar de gritos te perdonan y siguen contigo, aunque los defraudes te ayudan y te dan abrigo, no es ninguno al que llame amigo.
Mi evolución como artista realmente me ha llevado a lugares que yo nunca pensé ir, ¿no? Por ejemplo, bueno, conocer todo mi país, esa ha sido una bendición, yo creo, como de la vida y bueno, también creo que del trabajo duro. He podido pisar a otros países también con mi música. Por ejemplo, he tenido giras por República Dominicana, por El Salvador, Estados Unidos, de un pequeño evento de hip hop con 3 personas a festivales como súper importantes e impresionantes para mí, pues que uno no piensa que va a pisar.
Mi boca no calla, mi propuesta siempre decir la neta. Esa es mi meta. Encerrada en 4 paredes y no es la cárcel, es la vida cuando juega.
El paso de, digamos, de la migración fue realmente muy de sorpresa. Yo vine a tocar el año pasado aquí, conocí a la gente de vida urbana, hubo ahí un enlace sentimental con una persona y aparte me dijeron, pues vamos a trabajarte aquí y vente, ¿no? Claro que ha sido un lugar, o sea, es totalmente distinto, pues porque es volver a empezar, ¿no? En México yo ya tengo una carrera, yo ya tengo medios que se interesan por mí, personas que me siguen, pero claro que siento que para alcanzar algo más grande tienes que apostar, pues.
La vida cambia y se tornan los matices, caminos ya se trazan y seguimos directrices.
Pero claro que siempre es difícil estar en calles que no conoces, ¿no? Pero aún así, pues súper positivos, trabajando y como mandando muchas vibras a la gente, que buena onda para que se vengan, ¿no? Para que vengan con nosotros.
Por eso vamos, mira siempre para adelante, con coraje y con paciencia en el alma humanizarte. El tiempo me ha enseñado que la espera no es eterna, que las ganas se esfuman, si en tu alma ya no hay metas.
Tiene en el disco un sonido diferente, pues porque el disco anterior tenía mucho funk y mucho hip hop, entonces ahora quiero mezclar más reggae, más cumbia, quiero también mezclar un poco más de rap más crudo, ¿no? Porque también se me toma como una rapera como muy niña, pues, ¿no? Y está bien, pues, pero quiero ser un poco más cruda en las letras porque, pues, la vida no solamente es rosa, también es cruda, pues, ¿no? Y no solo hablo de calles, ni pistolas, ni nada de eso. Los problemas reales que enfrenta, creo que un adulto, ¿no? Por ahí va. Y no fluyes con el todo, te revuelcas en el lodo, un estado de impaciencia que te vuelve ogro. A ver, el arco de ser filósofa a ser rapera, creo que no tiene mucha, digamos, disparidad, ¿no? Pareciera que es un abismo, ¿no? Entre la academia y la música, pero al final creo que es lenguaje, pues, ¿no? Lenguaje y abstracción. La filosofía, lo que hace un filósofo real es ver la realidad, abstraerla y escribir sobre ella, ¿no? Y el rapero hace lo mismo. Por eso vamos, mira siempre para adelante, con coraje y con paciencia en el alma humanizarte.
They come from Crown Heights. They're Hasidic women, and they're all about rock and roll. Tinabeth Pina has their unusual story.
Crown Heights is a neighborhood where its men and women strictly observe the laws of Judaism. And out of this community comes a women's band who's trying to combine rock and roll with their Hasidic beliefs. Let's meet Bulletproof Stockings.
What else are we going to call an all-girl Hasidic rock band? Bulletproof Stockings. I think it pretty much tells you what it is right off the bat.
There's a joke that people tell, it's kind of this derogatory term, about women who wear these very thick, opaque stockings, so thick that they're bulletproof, and these are Hasidic women. I'm like, okay, I'm embracing this lifestyle, I'm going to totally own that joke. We're using the rock and roll language per se, but we're infusing it with everything else that we're about, which is like, we are Hasidim, you know, that's how we live our life. So it comes out through the music. Being a Chassid means living in the real world and bringing these positive elements and bringing the spiritual down to earth.
How does Hasidic music infiltrate your music and your sound?
They're Nigunim,
yeah, Hasidic melodies. If you listen to our music and you know Hasidic melodies, I think you can easily see the influence. It's old world. It's got a kind of a little bit of a classical sound in some respect. It's very soulful. It's a little bluesy, and I think that comes through in the music as well. Being a Chassid is awesome because every single day is about doing better than yesterday, and every single day it's like, yesterday was good, how can today be better? How can I make the world a better place and spread more light and joy in the world? So it's just awesome.
Yeah, and how does an all-girl Hasidic rock band form?
After my second divorce, I started writing music, which was very unexpected and happened really naturally. It just started flowing out. I had no previous experience on stage before this, so it's kind of like really putting myself out there. I've been on stage performing drums since I was 16, and even like the first time I ever touched a drum was on a stage. I had just gone through a huge life change, you know, moved my kids here, just rebuilding, you know, after losing my husband. And I was getting a lot of calls for doing a lot of music things, which was beautiful, but I definitely didn't have like extra energy to like devote to anything until I met Pearl. It was an instant connection. Right away, it was like, all right, cool, let's do this. We're forming a band. It was like an unspoken thing. We knew that it was going to be big, and we knew that we were going to play for women, and we were just like, all right, let's take it on.
Why do you guys perform only for women?
We want to create a space where women can rock out and be themselves. People commonly confuse it because there is a Jewish law for men saying that Jewish men aren't supposed to listen to the voice of a woman singing who is not an immediate family member. It does shape what we do in some ways, but it's a very special thing to have an environment where it's just you and your sisters.
How can you be so blind?
Jewish girls, non-Jewish girls, they'd all be into it. It's such a rush and it's such a spiritual experience to be on stage and it's really the energy from the women that makes it.
You just do not know what you're worth.
Their music, but I also just love what they are. You know, an ultra-Orthodox alternative rock band that's gone mainstream.
I think they totally blew us away. They rocked, totally rocked.
It's really fun, it's relaxing. You sort of don't have the same energies that go on sometimes when men are there, and women can really sort of let loose and sing and dance.
What would be like your ultimate dream? Where do you see you guys performing? Madison Square Garden, headlining? What's your biggest dream?
Headlining Madison Square
There
Garden.
you go.
Hasidic Farbrengen.
Yeah, or even having like a festival, like a whole like Women Palooza kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like having a traveling festival that we could take everywhere with all the female talent that's out there for women to celebrate all around the world.
I'm Tinabeth Pina for Arts in the City.
Bulletproof Stockings has already gained national media attention, from the Wall Street Journal to Oxygen TV. I say, rock on, ladies.
I'm Carol Ann Riddell. We're marking the 50th anniversary of one of the world's most beloved movies, The Sound of Music. We sat down with the author of a new book on the topic who takes us behind the scenes of this fan favorite.
The iconic opening scene of The Sound of Music, Maria triumphantly twirling in a majestic landscape, except not exactly, at least not in the real-life version of events.
When the helicopter zooms in on Julie Andrews, the downdraft from the blades was so intense that Julie Andrews would start to lip sync to the playback and she would get knocked over into the mud. And this happened over and over again, and she would signal the helicopter pilot, make a wider turn, only he interpreted that to mean, that's great, we'll do it one more time.
That is just one of the many inside story anecdotes included in Tom Santopietro's new book called The Sound of Music Story. We sat down with him at Barnes & Noble, where fans gathered for a discussion of his book and the wildly adored movie on its 50th anniversary.
So Tom, the 50th anniversary of this film, what is it that makes it so relevant still?
You know, from a technical standpoint, it has fantastic music, more hit songs, I think, than any musical ever. It has a star at the peak of her powers. But the biggest reason is because it's about family.
Julie Andrews, to so many of us now, she is the Sound of Music, but she wasn't initially the most logical choice in terms of casting.
Now it seems inevitable. But at the time, she had shot Mary Poppins, but it hadn't been released. And so they didn't know what she'd be like on film, and they considered people ranging from Grace Kelly, who was already Princess Grace, she was otherwise occupied, and Doris Day, who was the biggest movie star in the world then. And Doris Day was very smart, and she said, I'm so all-American, nobody's going to believe me as a nun from Austria.
Fascinating stories about the captain and Christopher Plummer and his really pretty active dislike for the role.
Christopher Plummer was really uninterested in the role. He said, it's going to ruin my reputation as a Shakespearean actor, and Robert Wise flew to London to convince him. The nice thing with Christopher Plummer is now, 50 years later, he said that when he watched it, he was at a kid's birthday party, which I think is interesting, and they were watching the movie, and he looked at it and he said, I felt a sense of pride that I had been a part of it.
I love some of the stories you tell about casting, and particularly Gretel.
She was 5 years old, and she had such confidence that she walked in to meet Academy Award-winning Robert Wise, looked at him and at his associate producer and said, good afternoon, gentlemen. And they said to the 5-year-old, what are you going to sing? And she said, oh, I'll be singing 16 going on 17.
Though the landscape appears bucolic in the movie, the book explains Mother Nature was not cooperative during filming.
Nobody knew that it's official. Salzburg has the 7th highest rainfall in the world. Even though it was in June, it was really cold because they were up so high in the mountains. So they would wrap themselves in blankets and wait for the literally, it would be 3 minutes of sunshine, and they would just have to run out there and try to get a take.
The finished product was an immediate hit with fans, but some of the early reviews were anything but.
The small-town critics were actually nice to the film. It was the big city critics, particularly in New York.
The Times, right?
The New York Times wrote the worst review. When you look at it now, it's like they were trying to prove how hip they were by putting down The Sound of Music.
Still, The Sound of Music has certainly stood the test of time. Recently, we saw the live version with Carrie Underwood, also Lady Gaga's tribute at the Oscars. Fans of the movie and music are known to border on the obsessive. Take a look at this flash mob dance of Do Re Mi in a train station in Belgium. Then there are the dress-up sing-alongs, which brings us back to the very beginning. What exactly is it about The Sound of Music?
It's the music. It's the Do Re Mi, the hills are alive, the enthusiasm of a stepmother coming in who's fabulous, but mostly the music.
The score was written by two masters of the craft, Rodgers and Hammerstein. Like, everything they did was so in sync and so wonderful, and there was never a wasted note in what is written, never a wasted lyric.
Perhaps no one knows more about the popularity of the music than Ted Chapin, president and executive director of Rodgers and Hammerstein.
It is astonishing how successful the score of The Sound of Music is. It's not betraying a confidence to say that the top 5 or 6 songs in the entire Rodgers and Hammerstein canon are from The Sound of Music, with My Favorite Things being the number 1. It's the gift that keeps giving. It's really pretty extraordinary.
The universal themes of perseverance, hope, and family have made The Sound of Music a classic, spanning generations, cultures, and time. I'm Carol Ann Riddell for Arts in the City.
I'm Pat Collins at the Music Box Theater, where Mad Men's Elizabeth Moss has the title role in a revival of the Heidi Chronicles. Wendy Wasserstein won the Pulitzer Prize and the Tony Award 26 years ago for her seminal work about a young feminist and the evolution of the women's movement from the 1960s to the 80s.
There's a lot of talk these days about superwomen. Are you a superwoman? Oh gosh, no. You have to keep too many lists to be a superwoman. I love lists!
I think that it's almost more relevant today than it was in '89. She was sort of very ahead of her time. And the questions that she's asking are no different than the questions as a 32-year-old woman today that I am asking.
Heidi Holland, a young, unmarried, outspoken feminist, art historian, and the mother of an adopted child, is determined to have it all, including having the right man. The men in her life are Jason Biggs of Orange is the New Black and Tony nominee Bryce Pinkham. He departed A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder to take the role of Peter.
I've become a liberal homosexual pediatrician.
Peter finds out in his early adulthood that he's gay and has to come out to his best friend, who is probably at that point in love with him. Wendy Wasserstein, the playwright, was, I am told, named after Wendy in the Peter Pan story. And Heidi is, of course, a sort of surrogate for Wendy. So Peter, her best friend, I like to think is named in some way as a wink to Peter Pan. They are soulmates that can never be together.
What's it all for, Heidela? What's it all for?
He is her on-again, off-again lover. Scoop is kind of arrogant, aggressive, and I think these are things that really attract Heidi. And, there's something about...
But he's also dangerous.
He is dangerous.
There are 19 characters in the Heidi Chronicles, but only 8 actors in the cast.
I play Lisa, and I play Jill, and Debbie.
I'm playing 4 different women, Fran, Molly, Betsy, and April. April is a very powerful television host.
We were known as the baby boom generation.
Tony winner Pam McKinnon directs this revival of the Heidi Chronicles. The play originally opened on Broadway to rave reviews in 1989. Wendy died in 2006 at the age of 55. The cause of death was lymphoma,
Wendy was, you know, a trailblazer. And the Heidi Chronicles takes us from the 60s through the 70s to the 80s and shows the changes that our society was going through, not just for women, but for men at the same time, too.
But I keep allowing this guy to account for so much of what I think of myself. I allow him to make me feel valuable.
We could have Wendy back for 5 minutes. What would you ask her?
I would selfishly want to ask her questions about the Heidi Chronicles, but I think I would want to ask her what she's going to write next, because I think that that's the thing that we all miss the most, is she had so much more work to do.
And I thought the whole point was we wouldn't feel stranded. I thought the point was we were all in this together.
The original Broadway production starred Joan Allen. Cynthia Nixon was also in that cast, and David Hyde Pierce replaced the original Peter. I'm Pat Collins for Arts in the City.
The New York Botanical Gardens Orchid Show has been going on for 13 years. Let's take a tour of the show, Chandeliers. Why chandeliers?
Well, I've been working closely, of course, with my director, Francisca Cuela, who's been the designer for the show for the past couple of years. She wanted to do something to really explore the vertical space in the conservatory and really sort of impart this element of elegance into the show. So she came up with this idea of chandeliers to really get the orchids in, around, above, and surrounding all of our visitors to really showcase the beauty and diversity of the flowers.
What is the feature of the orchid show?
One of my favorite parts of the show, being so partial to orchids themselves, I love the miniature displays. But one of the new things that we've done this year are our orchid evenings, and they've really become one of my favorite things because you get a whole different experience here at the orchid show by coming at night and being able to experience the show. It's like coming to a whole different orchid show.
Orchids, for some reason, just everybody relates. What is it about orchids?
Orchids have this air of mystery about them. They're considered to be very exotic. There's sort of a lot of legend and lore that surrounds these fantastic flowers. But in reality, it's a great group of plants that we chose to not only celebrate the beautiful horticultural displays, which we're now world famous for, but also as a great group of plants. They're kind of the pandas of the plant world, a charismatic group of plants that we can utilize to teach the public about all the things we do here at the New York Botanical Garden in terms of scientific research, plant biodiversity conservation, and of course, beautiful horticultural displays, which now you can see here all throughout the year.
That's our show for today. For more information on any of our stories, go to our website at CUNY.tv. I'm Magalie Laguerre-Wilkinson, and I'll see you next month on Arts in the City.